I used to tell kids all the time in high school that you can either look at that as as something bad, or you can look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you truly can. It's a choice of where you go, and
Sure.
and you took the bull by the horns, and you chose to do what you've done, and you've put in a lot of sweat equity, and you've put in a lot of time and energy, and worked several hours, and you've definitely created something huge, all from a kid who had a lot of energy, who struggled in class, and but who even sucked at running at one point, believe it or not, folks.
Yeah.
And now dominates that as well. And you're still running, and you're still competing, and you're still winning races.
Yep.
So kudos to you to
Thank
be a
you.
family man first, for your wife, for your children, and what you're growing over at Loper Machine is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, appreciate all that.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Tim here with the TMA Connection. It's your local podcast that focuses on people that are making a difference in their own lives, in the lives of others, in the community. And we even throw in a little bit of real estate every now and then. But today, it's not a real estate day. We are bringing into the studio a pretty cool guy. Actually coached way back in the day at Bel Air High School.
Yep.
And just a phenomenal story that we're going to bring to you today. So without further ado, Mr. Alex Loper, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. Before we get started, let's get a little bit of an introduction here. I didn't want to give too much of your introduction away. Who is Alex Loper?
I'm a dad. I'm a husband.
I like how you put those first. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, top priorities. And I'm a business owner. I own a machine shop in Edgewood with my brother-in-law, Kevin Smolinski.
Okay.
And yeah, I do a lot of running. And I that's about it.
Yeah.
Might need to cut that
Well,
part.
no, man, no, we're going to go with that because, you did say I'm a dad and a husband first, and then I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
And then I'm a runner, and I'm surprised that you didn't put running a little bit higher in the pecking order there. But, I mean, no joke, I think that you're a runner is probably a little bit of an understatement and, a lower estimate of, I mean, you are a serious, like, get after it competition, I don't know, man. I mean, you're incredible. Your brother's incredible. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But Alex Loper, the student. So I remember Alex Loper at Bel Air High School as, one of those kind of wild kids, right?
Yeah, I was a goofball.
Give everybody a little bit of an idea, like, who you were back then.
Back then, and still to this day, full of energy.
Full of energy, huh?
Yeah, I was full of energy, and going through school, I had a hard time channeling that energy into my classes and staying focused. And I think a lot of that had to do with I wasn't very interested in what I was learning in any of my classes.
Yeah.
So looking back now, I think I'd have done better at a tech school like Hartford Tech and done the machining program or anything that I would have had more of an interest in. But along with that too, I have dyslexia, and
Okay.
so I have a really hard time with reading and writing and spelling. And so back then, I think that I definitely used that as an excuse of why I wouldn't do well at a certain test or exam, and I looking back now, it's I had all the help that I needed from my teachers, and it was more just a me thing. And again, just going with that interest, I just wasn't that interested in what I was learning at school. And even math class, right? Like math would be like a math question would be like a whole paragraph that you'd have to read, and it would take me 20 minutes to read the question. And some of that too is, it's embarrassing. If you get called on to read a question and you're going to fumble through it, and you get that famous line Billy Madison to today Junior, you know, and as a kid that's hard, you know, it's hard to get that. And
how did you mask that? Like, how did you, when it became embarrassing? I mean, how did you overcome that? Because you seemed like a pretty confident guy when you were younger.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I covered that up back then with the energy is I would play it off like it didn't bother me, be a goofball, and kind of just laugh it off.
Just kind of cover it up with humor.
Yeah, cover it up with humor.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know, again, it's in hindsight now, but it really wasn't. It wasn't the best way to handle that back then.
Yeah, but I guess at some point you definitely did, of course, you know, address that because, and certainly at that age we're kind of all trying to find that identity, you know, of who we are and what defines us. And, you know, some people might take a learning disability or a physical disability and allow that to define them.
Sure.
Was there ever a defining moment for you where you didn't accept it as just an excuse?
Yeah, I would say, or going back to high school, when I was a senior, they gave me like a typing. I wouldn't even call it was a laptop. It was more like a keyboard that would help correct your spelling, and it would type up your assignment better. And I think that it was just, you know, carrying that thing around. It was like kids are making fun of you for having it, and so I remember going home one night and I told my mom, I'm like, you know, this is cool and all, but I'm not going to use this because I don't want that. I don't think that I need that, and I think that I can overcome my issues with spelling and writing, and I did, and I still am. You know, to this day, like I said, I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to get better at reading and writing. But fortunately, you know, what I do is I don't have to do too much of that.
Yeah, right.
Except for answering emails.
Right.
But yeah.
When we stopped by your shop, you were telling me the story about one of the first times that you were drafting an email and you sent it out, and what did Kevin come to you or something?
Yeah. My partner Kevin came back. He's like, man, we're gonna download Grammarly onto your computer immediately because you can't have emails going like that out the door, you know. So yeah, still a challenge to this day. And actually, my senior year of high school, towards the end of the year, I went and I tried to get into a trade school that my brother went to. I tried to get into Williamson Trade School, and I failed the written exam. And that's actually a trade school for machining. They have a machine shop there. So
okay.
And again, I would say that was a defining moment too, because it beat me up at that time. And I felt not really defeated, but more like I can't really believe that they wouldn't accept me because of my reading and writing issues, when I know I can work with my hands, and I had already done some work with my dad and knew that I could work with my hands and do machining.
So it's a skill that you had from an early age.
Yeah.
And it was a way of, it didn't necessarily align with the traditional education curriculum that you would have in a public high school.
Yeah.
But you knew you did have something special there that you were going to pursue.
I knew I had something special going back to I think it was in 7th grade, we had tech class and we made wooden cars.
Okay.
And I remember making my wooden car, and it was one of the best in the class, and other kids were coming to me to make their saw cuts. And I was so excited to go to school to work on that project.
Awesome.
But then it was like I did that project, and throughout school, never really did another one. You know,
because I think in the middle school, that's probably like a quarter that you would take that.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That was it.
But you got a taste for it, and of course, having an older brother and your dad.
Yeah.
Certainly was helpful in that.
Yep.
When did running come in to your life, and how did that help through those tough high school years?
Sure. Yeah. So running came into my life. My brother was a runner, So my brother's 9 years older than me. My parents split up when I was 4. And so my brother really became more of like a father figure to me than so much a brother. And I always looked up to him so much growing up. And so he was a really good runner, and he was a good wrestler, and it just seemed like he was good at every sport, So when I was going into high school, my mom was like, "You're going to play a sport," and so I wanted to play football, of course, like I think every boy does, And but I was 85 pounds soaking wet, and so they were like, "No, you're not gonna play football." And Sean actually had tried. My brother Sean had actually tried football, and I think he made the transition his junior year to start running when Reddish was like, "Hey man, like you do a lot of running. You're pretty good at running. Maybe you should go out for the cross country team," when he was playing football. So, and then he went out and he had, and still to this day.
And Coach Reddish was a football coach at that point, right?
Yeah. So going into high school, I started running, and at first I would say that, I didn't really enjoy it. I was doing it more because I was forced into it by my mom making me do a sport.
No kidding.
But then, because it's like when you first start it, it hurts. Even if you run a quarter mile, you're out of breath and your vision's getting blurry and everything hurts. And running's one of those things that's from the moment that you start till when you finish, it doesn't feel good. And I don't care how good you are, you still go through all the motions of getting cramps and you're hurting. But going back to high school, it was, and kind of going back to telling you where I had a lot of energy, it was a good way to burn energy.
Right.
Most of the kids I would say all the kids that I ever ran with on cross country were good kids, and I think that I really needed that in my life. I needed to be surrounded by just good people.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, there's no doubt. I coached track and field for 7 years, and it was the distance runners, and just a lot of those kids were just like top notch.
Yeah. Straight
A students, well behaved in school.
Sure.
Had good, respect, courtesy, manners, all that good stuff. So
yeah, and going back to my freshman year, I was looking up to like Brian Tom and Jake Tannenbaum and Scott Watson, kids that were straight A students and did really well in school. And I think that it was really important that I did start that, my freshman year and continue on. So being surrounded by them, it definitely helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you've taken things that you necessarily weren't good at, and still today you're not the best when it comes to reading, writing, and all that stuff. But you are a phenomenal runner now, which is kind of entertaining for me to remember the Alex Loper that was just always in the top 3 in running. But there was a time where running a quarter mile was very difficult, and you didn't enjoy it. That blows my mind. I wow. But the fact that even though it sucked, it was like you pushed through.
I pushed through. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And again with running, it's like that's what running is. It's as soon as you start, it's you're pushing through pain. You're constantly fighting through the hurt and the discomfort, and I guess somewhere along the way I did have some success with it, and I did well in a race, and then you do get that. You get that praise for it, especially when you're younger and you're in high school. You do well at a race, and
sure,
and so that makes you want to do better at it.
Yeah,
and it's always been a way that my brother and I have come together, even to this day. I don't think I would see him nearly as much as I do if we didn't meet up at 5:30 in the morning and go for a run.
Right.
All right. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
that was something I always saw between the two of you that I had a lot of respect for, was that relationship that you guys had, that bond of older brother, younger brother. But then Sean was just phenomenal with all the kids and really just did a phenomenal job at coaching.
Yeah.
And pushing them to always improve. He was a
Yep.
phenomenal coach, and Belair always crushed in the distance races or in cross country because of, in large part, of him coaching that effort from everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you graduate high school. You didn't get into the trade school that you're looking to get into, but you still know that you have this skill of working with your hands. What happens after you leave high school?
Yeah. So graduated, and so I said that I've been working with my dad a little bit, but I was still really unsure with what machining was. My dad had a machine in his basement at that time out in Carroll County, and so I would go down there every other weekend and maybe like sit there on a stool and deburr some parts for him with a file, but didn't know what machining was. And so I graduate and I got a job at the athletic club as a lifeguard. And so about a year later, I did that for about a year. A year later, my mom, I think it was my mom, reached out to my dad and was like, "Hey, you got to call Alex because he's really not doing anything with his life right now." So my dad gives me a call, and he was managing a plastic injection molding facility, and inside of that molding facility, they had a repair shop for the molds.
Okay.
Which was a really small machine shop. And so he was like, "Hey, we got a guy that's retiring and we could get you in here." So I went and I did that. And at first I didn't really take to it. I was working on manual machines. So they have a manual mill and a manual lathe, which you're cranking handles, and it was work that paid better than the athletic club. So I was doing it. And then they had this, the whole time I was working there, they had this CNC machine, which stands for computer numerical control. And basically it's a manual machine that's all automated. It moves by itself. You program it at a computer, it turns it into G code, you put the G code in the machine, and it runs the program and cuts the metal. And there was something about that machine that always stood out to me. So my brother did an Ironman, and he did not get I think he might have got a finisher's medal, but he didn't get an award. And I was just like, "Man, you do an Ironman, you should get something,
Sure.
I got a picture of him crossing the finish line, and I made a picture frame, and I needed to use the CNC machine to do all the engraving around the outside of the picture frame. And so I did that, and when I saw the X, Y, Z axis all moving, I was just like blown away, and I'm like, this is what I gotta learn.
Yeah.
So quickly, I went and got a job at an aerospace shop that had a lot, just a ton of technology. And fortunately, I got taken under somebody's wing there who was probably the best machinist in Maryland. And he trained me for 6 months, and I just laser focused on what he was doing. And fortunately, I got to pick it up really well, and I ran with it. And so that was really how I got, from high school and made the transition into machining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many hours a day would you be spending in a machine shop?
So I was working anywhere from 8 hours to 10 hours to 12 hours. But it's funny looking back now because I always liked video games too.
Okay.
So I was playing video games a lot when I was especially when I was lifeguarding. And the cool
while you're watching the kids in the pool, or
hold
on, I know you're drowning over there, but I gotta beat this level,
When I would get home from lifeguarding, yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the computer stuff, the computer side of things, and so I would go home from working all day, and I would actually program things at home and just practice at home and program stuff that I would actually never even go to make. It was just because I enjoyed and I wanted to learn that software. And if you have ever seen CAD CAM software packages, they're really cool. And and so I enjoyed that, and I really never played a video game since. I play around on softwares like that.
Right.
So
cool though. I mean, just just the fact that you knew you had some kind of niche, some kind of talent, it didn't necessarily equate to what they were teaching you in high school, because the tech programs, the art programs, those are the first ones to get ousted, because the core subjects of English, science, math, all that is quote unquote more important, but
Yeah.
not necessarily, and then to then go and really seek out and have that mentorship with that guy in that machine shop, and to be able to create that skill. And now it brings you to, I think I want to open my own shop.
Yeah.
Like,
so I was.
Who would have thought that would happen?
So I had moved on from the aerospace shop. I got a job at Black and Decker, and then worked myself into essentially the lead programmer position.
Oh, wow.
And then there was they were making lead men for different departments, and so I had assumed that I was going to become a lead man for the department that I was working in, which was the the lathe mill turn department. And somebody else got it, and I was kind of beat up about it, and so I was over at my sister's house that night, and my partner, who's my partner now, Kevin, my brother-in-law, we were there talking, and I just had mentioned, I don't know, man, maybe I'll just buy a machine, put it in my basement, and start finding work for it. And he was like, man, if you can fit the machine in your basement, you ain't thinking big enough, And
Ooh.
so I was like, all right, and he's like, well, look, I got about this much set aside, and I got about this much money set aside, and so I believe in you. And I always believed in Kevin's abilities, because he's super mechanical, can fix anything. And he was really interested in the business side of things, and I was more interested in being able to make whatever I want, not so much the business side of things. I just wanted that freedom to create, and freedom to make, to have the decision to say, okay, we're going to make this part, or we're not going to make this part. And so Kevin was like, I believe in you. Let's start a business. And so we got a machine and found a space, and put the machine there, and that was the beginning of Loper Machine. And it started off as this part-time gig. I would get off of Black and Decker at 5:00, and I'd stay at Loper Machine until 10, 11 o'clock making parts. And that was a really hard time in my life, because I had a 1-year-old at home.
Oh, wow.
And, my wife was at home, but I told her, I just kept telling her, I'm like, I really think that this is going to go somewhere. And I knew that I was really good at machining, and I could make parts that, not many other people could make.
Right.
And so that was really how we got into it. Was we were taking jobs that was not high production. It was, 1 or 2 parts. Okay. And they were super complex. And but they paid well, and so we would do a job, and then that would grow us, to take on the next bigger job. Okay. And then the next bigger job after that, which led to more equipment, and then some production jobs, and kind of put us to where we are now.
That's amazing. And so Jay and I came to your shop about a week ago. Yeah. And saw some really cool stuff. What exactly, for people that haven't been to your shop, what does Loper Machine make? What are they doing? What are you guys doing now? So it's subtractive manufacturing. So a lot of people might be familiar with additive manufacturing, which is like 3D printing, where it's extruding material and it's creating a part. But subtractive is where you have a block of material and you remove the material to get down to whatever the part is. And so we mainly are specialized in the aerospace industry, making parts for spaceships and airplanes and rockets. And so what we do is we receive a print and a model from a customer, and we have to bring it into our software. And we have to apply the toolpaths to it, which the toolpaths are the cutter that's going to run around and remove the material. And so that's what we do. We make parts. Yeah. From raw blocks of material, and we work with plastic, aluminum, stainless steel, titanium, Inconel, some of the toughest materials that are on Earth. We cut and make parts out of it. Yeah, and if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you really want to go over to YouTube, because we were able to film some B-roll footage of the shop and what you're doing in there, and what Tammy and Kevin were doing as far as measuring the part that they were cutting and stuff like that, right?
Inspecting the part. So we have a CMM, which is a coordinate measuring machine at Loper Machine, and all the parts that we make, they have to be really close to perfect.
Yeah.
There is what we call tolerance built into the dimensioning of these parts, but we're dealing with a thousandth of an inch, or even a half a thousandth of an inch. Which, just to put that in perspective, if you took a piece of human hair is usually around 3 to 4 thousandths. So you'd have to split a human hair into 4 pieces, and one of those pieces would be 1,000th. And then if you split that into another 10 pieces, we even deal all the way down to the 10th of that. So we're the parts that we're making are really close to perfect, and we have to be able to inspect that and provide that information to our customer to assure that they are receiving perfect parts.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, to see your operation, and of course you've grown from that one machine now, and you've got several machines, you got several employees. What do you like most about where you've come with Loper Machine? Like, what do you like most about the business? Is it just the development of, or you building things, you creating something new? Is that what gives you your drive now, or is there something else?
Yeah, I mean, still to this day, I am passionate about the machining and making parts, and still I like to get that most complicated part and get it done and make it perfect and get it right on the first try.
Yeah,
is always what we're shooting for. And I'd say, the machining itself is what I'm the most passionate, and I feel blessed that I'm able to pick the parts that we make. And even I get to do some side projects, like we made a ukulele, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we also have a internship program, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later. But
that was my next question there, Alex.
Yeah.
Jeez, you're taking my thunder.
And so, the internship was inspired by, I lost a stepbrother in 2016. And he was going through a really hard time. And I think to this day, he'd be working alongside of me if he was still here. And so we started this internship to really help anybody that, might be feeling lost and they don't really know what to do, because machining is this trade that seems to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Everybody hears about HVAC, construction, automotive, but not that many people know about machining.
Yeah.
And so you can really do well for yourself in machining. And you can make enough money to buy a house and own a car, support a family, and even venture out and start your own machining machine shop. So we started this internship to help people, and so that's pretty awesome. We have interns that come in there, and it's been really awesome to watch somebody come through the program. It's Jeremy Kalk. He was a Bel Air
I remember
graduate.
Jeremy. Yep.
Yeah, and so Jeremy was sweeping chimneys, and found out about our internship. Reached out to me. He went through it, and now he's working at an aerospace shop. He's doing really well for himself, and I think that just seeing people do that and come through and do well for themselves, there's a lot of satisfaction in that.
Well, if this real estate thing doesn't work out, I might be knocking on your door for an internship.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, yeah, right. Yeah. Again, a super cool operation to witness, and I only saw a smidge of it. I'm sure there's a lot more going on, but just to see who you were, and naturally, most people grow up. Let's hope we all grow up, right? To see where you are now is just it's really special.
Yeah, I
It's really
appreciate that.
special. And you reached out to me and started to have this conversation. I was like, we got to get you on the podcast.
Yeah.
We got to get you on the podcast.
I appreciate you having me on. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's wrap this up. Got a couple of follow-up questions,
Yep.
some wrap-up questions. And we talked about the dyslexia and having the learning disability and all that. And usually what we ask is podcast or book recommendations. And I thought, book recommendation, dyslexia. But you know what? There's Audible.
Yep.
And I definitely devour a lot of books on Audible. So what's a book that has really made a difference for you that you've read on Audible?
I listened to Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Yep. So I enjoyed that one, and another one was Shoe Dog, which is the story of Phil Knight, the creator of Nike.
Yes.
And so as a runner, of course, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And just his business, growing his business was that was pretty inspiring to me.
Okay.
Yep.
What kind of podcasts are you listening to?
I listened to one coincidentally called The Business of Machining.
Okay.
And I've been listening to yours.
Well,
Yep.
let's go.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, if you remember Matt Cross,
I do.
yeah, he started one called the Wrestling with Leadership. So he's got one, and so I tune into him sometimes. Yeah, those are the main ones.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. When you're running, what kind of music are you listening to? Or are you even listening to music?
So sometimes I like to go for a run and just not think. So I won't listen to anything. I just like to take in the nature, and just and sometimes I like to run and think about plan out my day. So in that case, I won't listen to music either.
Yeah.
But when I do listen to music, I like to listen to something more upbeat. Sia, Unstoppable. I like that song. Yeah. So
It's popular on TikTok right now.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm trying to stay young, brother. I'm trying to stay young. You and your wife, you're gonna take your wife out to dinner tonight. What's your go-to place to go eat out in Harford County?
Well, it needs to be somewhere kid friendly. I got a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the 1-year-old screams a lot and throws his food all over the place. So we go to Italian Sensations a lot.
Okay.
And, so I love that place.
Someone else brought up Italian Sensations too.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been there.
You gotta go, man. Check it out. It's really good.
Well, what's your go-to dish there? What are you gonna order?
Chicken steak sub.
Chicken steak sub.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm hungry. Jay, we're going to lunch. For more opportunities, somebody that might watch this and be like, man, like that connects with me. Maybe they're interested in machining, or maybe they just want to pick your brain about anything about running or anything like that. Where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can email me directly at alex@lopermachine.com.
Okay.
Check out our website if you want to read about the internship. It's on there. So that's lopermachine.com. Yeah. Hit me up and let me know. And we usually run 4 people at a time through the internship.
Okay.
So we're actually booked right now through December.
Okay.
But beginning of next year, there'll be another opening
More
for
opportunities.
4 more people. Yep.
That's so awesome.
Yep.
I'm thoroughly impressed. I love to learn, and I'm really, sometimes people ask, why are you doing a podcast? Like, this isn't going to bring you clients, and like that's not the reason why I want to bring you, bring anybody into the studio. It's because I feel like when we're learning, we're growing, and if you're not growing, you're dying. So, I've learned so much from you in just this short amount of time that we've talked on the mics, as well as gone out to your place. My mind was blown with everything that you've accomplished with your business and with Kevin. And you have your sister Tammy. You have your other sister. What's her name again? Tanya.
Yep.
And then Sean's. He's in that kind of career field too. So it's kind of neat that you're bringing your family into this too.
Yeah.
Which is super special.
Yep. It's
I mean, you're the
It's
little
cool working
you're the
with family.
you're the little brother bossing around all the big siblings. You know?
Yeah. But they still boss me around while I'm there, but I let them know that I'm still the boss.
You're the boss, huh?
Yeah.
Well, again, I want to acknowledge you, brother, because I think you've done phenomenal things. I think, especially having two daughters right now that are 20 and 18, and they're in that critical point of their life where they're like, you know, where am I going? You know, and I think I used to tell kids all the time in high school that you can either look at that as as something bad, or you can look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you truly can. It's a choice of where you go, and
Sure.
and you took the bull by the horns, and you chose to do what you've done, and you've put in a lot of sweat equity, and you've put in a lot of time and energy, and worked several hours, and you've definitely created something huge, all from a kid who had a lot of energy, who struggled in class, and but who. And even sucked at running at one point, believe it or not, folks.
Yep.
And now dominates that as well. And you're still running, and you're still competing, and you're still winning races.
Yep.
So kudos to you to be a family man first, for your wife, for your children, and what you're growing over at Loper Machine is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, appreciate all of that.
Absolutely. Last question.
Yep.
At the end of every podcast, we like to have our guests acknowledge someone who has made a significant difference in their life and who they are today. So, in front of everybody, who would you like to pay tribute to today? And that's a tough one, because you've had a lot of people that have influenced you.
Yeah, I mean, instinctively, I wanna say my brother.
Yeah.
But my son Brooks. Yeah, my first son Brooks. I would say that when he was born, it was just the greatest thing in my life.
Yeah.
And my other son River, I mean, when he came along, same thing. But really having my first, it was life changing.
Yeah.
For the best, and someday I definitely hope to be able to hand down the business to him, and that's definitely what pushes me forward. Especially in the toughest times with it. I just think about my kids and how I just want to create the best life that I can possibly give to them.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Guys, look up Alex. We'll tag him on all the posts when we put this out. Great interview, man.
Yeah.
Great interview.
Yeah, I was
love
starting
it.
to get kind of emotional there, talking about my kid.
I was starting to get a little emotional too, because you're right. Having children really changes a man,
It does.
You know?
Yep.
And,
you're kind of a child until you have a child.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. You're a beautiful guy. Look, guys, again, reach out to Alex. If you're not following us yet, I don't know why you haven't yet. Come on, get your act together. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe anywhere you download your podcast. You can also follow us at the Markland Advantage on Instagram and Facebook, and we're on TikTok at TMA Real Estate. And thank you for joining us today. Alex, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, live your life to the fullest, and we'll see you soon. Take care.